After coming out of the alchemy hall, night had already descended. Lung Fian brought Jin Shen to her palace and sat on her throne. Placing a hand under her chin, she closed her eyes, clearly disappointed, and said to Jin Shen, "Looks like you are dissatisfied with me as your master. Why don't we dissolve our master-disciple relationship, and you can find another master?" Hearing Long Fian's words, Jin Shen was flabbergasted. He started sweating profusely, finally understanding that his master had misunderstood him. Jin Shen immediately bowed before Long Fian, clasping his hands together, and requested, "Master, please don't dissolve our relationship. If I keep admitting mistakes, how could I have the face to stay in the sword sect?" Lung Fian, still with her cold attitude, inquired, "What did you do wrong? Did I ever say that you were wrong?" Jin Shen immediately replied, "My mistake was not focusing on my cultivation as you advised, but instead wasting time helping Elder Tianqing with alchemy. I have let down your teachings and expectations of me." Lung Fian raised an eyebrow and glanced at Jin Shen with a piercing gaze, but remained silent. Jin Shen, seeing his master's gaze, realized that her eyes had softened a bit. He knew he needed to push a bit further to diminish her anger. Jin Shen instantly prostrated on the ground, clasping his hands together in apology, and began praising his master as the best master in the world. He complimented her cultivation as unrivaled and her beauty as unparalleled, like a celestial being. Not stopping there, he continued, "With a master like you, why would I want to follow anyone else?" Finally, he added, "Master, you have truly misunderstood me." Lung Fian's cold attitude finally melted under Jin Shen's flattery. A graceful smile appeared on her face as she stared at him silently. Just then, the game notified Jin Shen that Lung Fian's favorability towards him had increased by 5, reaching a total of 15 points. Jin Shen, seeing the notification, was overjoyed but kept his composure outwardly. He was thrilled that his master's favorability had finally increased, and he realized that his master responded well to flattery. Now, he no longer needed to worry about being expelled as her disciple. Lung Fian then raised her hand sideways and said to Jin Shen, "Since you've realized your mistake, I won't hold it against you this time." Jin Shen immediately bowed and thanked his master for her generosity, promising that he would never make such a low-level mistake again. He then took out the eternal youth pill he obtained from Elder Tianqing and offered it to his master, telling her that it was a small gift to express his apology. Lung Fian, upon seeing the pill, gasped in disbelief. Her eyes widened, and she muttered in shock, "This is an eternal youth pill." Then she asked Jin Shen, "This pill is extremely rare. Where did you get it from?" Jin Shen explained to his master that he had helped Elder Tianqing in refining 2 eternal youth pills, so the elder rewarded him with 1 pill. Lung Fian waved her hand, closed her eyes, and told Jin Shen, "Such a precious pill. You should keep it for yourself. There is no need to give it to me." Jin Shen, seeing his master's pride, gritted his teeth and sighed. He knew he had to give this pill to his master, even if she didn't want to accept it. He had to find a way. He quickly approached his master and, grabbing her hand, placed the box containing the pill into her hand. He told her that he had specifically asked Elder Tianqing for this eternal youth pill to give it to her. He then started acting, blurting out nonsense, saying that the reason he wanted to learn alchemy from Elder Tianqing was so that he could learn to refine the eternal youth pill. He didn't stop there, continuing, "In the future, I will refine one for you every day so that you can eat it like meals." Lung Fian stared at Jin Shen, silently listening to him. After a moment's pause, she brought her hand close to her mouth and smiled gracefully at his words. Jin Shen, seeing his master's graceful smile, was taken aback. He started blushing, unable to resist his master's beautiful smile. Embarrassed by his own flattery, Jin Shen began rubbing his hands and, while blushing, said, "Master, your celestial beauty doesn't require an eternal youth pill. This gift is my heartfelt intention, so I hope you accept it to ease my mind." Lung Fian smiled, closed her eyes, and finally accepted Jin Shen's gift. Just then, a system notification flashed before Jin Shen's eyes. Lung Fian's favorability towards him had increased by 20, reaching a total of 35 points. Lung Fian stood from her throne, walked close to Jin Shen, and said, "Since I have accepted your gift, I must give you something in return." She told him that she had a qi refining technique that would suit him well and that she would fetch it for him. Jin Shen thought inwardly that, as expected, the higher the favorability, the better the benefits. Gifting the eternal youth pill was the right choice. Lung Fian walked past Jin Shen and told him to follow her. Jin Shen bowed and responded, "Yes, master." As she walked away, Jin Shun's gaze fell on the hairpin he had given her before. He was happy to see that his master had quietly worn the ordinary hairpin he had gifted her. After obtaining the chi refining technique from his master, Jin Shun returned to his abode and started cultivating the technique. Jin Shin adopted the lotus stance, sat on the board, and checked out his status panel. At this point, Jin Shun had obtained 4 martial techniques: Tianyin Heart Sutra, Shadow Step, Piercing Through the Fog, and Frost Moon Slash. After these days of continuous missions, his swordsmanship aptitude had reached 10%, and his alchemy aptitude had reached a whopping 50%. The accessories he had obtained from completing the missions and slaying monsters were all spirit-grade equipment, including the Red Cloud Sword, Gathering Jade Pendant, Sinking Stone Ring, Cloud Walking Boots, Ox Incense Belt, 100 Refined Ring, and Gentle Wind Bracelet. The technique he just received from his master was the Phoenix Feather Sword Manual. As Jin Shen cultivated this technique, crimson energy started gathering in his abode, covering his sword and his body. His attributes also increased. After practicing for a while, Jin Shen grabbed his sword hilt and swung with full power. After just a single slash, he started sweating and panting heavily. Jin Shen was taken aback by the technique's potential, realizing it was too powerful, dealing twice the damage of Frost Moon Slash. It was also an AoE skill that could interrupt other techniques with a crippling effect. If Jin Shen put this technique up for auction, he could trade it for a house in a second-tier city. While contemplating, a voice called out from his abode. Jin Shen immediately opened the door and looked outside. It was his senior sister, Nan Gongyu. Jin Shen asked her why she was looking for him. Nan Gongyu, placing a hand over her chest, blushed and said, "I have a small favor to ask of you." She then told Jin Shen that as a sword sect disciple, she had to complete at least 3 tasks during each major realm. Embarrassingly, she revealed to Jin Shen that she hadn't completed any tasks since reaching the crystallization stage and now was about to break through to the next major realm. If she didn't complete a task soon, she would be penalized by the sect. Understanding the situation, Jin Shen inquired why she hadn't completed her tasks earlier. Nan Gongyu lowered her gaze and explained that she had been so focused on reading romance novels that she forgot about the tasks. Hearing her reason, a bead of sweat trickled down Jin Shen's face, and he nodded thoughtfully. Nan Gongyu immediately grabbed Jin Shen's hand, acting like a poor, weak girl, and told him she was just short of 1 demon-slaying task, which required 2 people to complete. She asked Jin Shen if he could accompany her on the mission. Jin Shen was taken aback by Nan Gongyu's approach but sighed and agreed to help her. Nan Gongyu had always taken care of him since he joined the sect, even giving him the spirit-grade jade pendant, so he wanted to repay her kindness. Upon hearing Jin Shen's response, Nan Gongyu brightened up and praised him, calling him the best. She assured him not to worry, promising to take care of him during the task and not let him get hurt. Just then, 2 virtual screens flashed before Jin Shen. The first notified him that Nan Gongyu's favorability towards him had increased by 10, reaching a total of 25. The second notified him of a quest to help Nan Gongyu complete the task in Wangyu Village to slay the demon. After some time, Jin Shen and Nan Gongyu reached Wangyu Village. The village was covered in a dense green mist, and no life could be seen anywhere. Both of them landed swiftly in the village. Nan Gongyu revealed to Jin Shen that the village had been invaded by malevolent spirits, and all the villagers had become their sustenance. She suspected the work of a demonic cultivator. Nan Gongyu turned to Jin Shen and told him that the sect wanted them to eliminate all the spirits, investigate the truth behind the scene, and report back to the elders. Jin Shen calmly nodded and began looking around. He remembered this village from his previous life. It eventually became the entrance to the Blood Infant Secret Realm for Crystallization Realm cultivators. Jin Shen had farmed in that secret realm many times before. Jin Shen and Nan Gongyu surveyed the village for clues and eventually reached an open area where they found a well. The green mist seemed to be emanating from the well. Both of them approached the well and looked up at the giant tree beside it. Suddenly, the well began glowing, with green light emanating from within. Nan Gongyu and Jin Shen blinked in confusion as they shifted their attention to the well. Suddenly, a malevolent spirit shot out from the well, roaring as it advanced towards them. Nan Gongyu immediately drew her sword, took an offensive stance, and told Jin Shen to be careful. Nan Gongyu charged forward with sword in hand and told Jin Shen to be careful and not to worry, as she would protect him. Just as Nan Gongyu approached the evil spirit, several more evil spirits shot out from inside the well into the sky. Nan Gongyu stopped in her tracks and confusingly looked at the spirits. Jin Shen also blinked in surprise. A bead of sweat trickled down his face. He had not anticipated there would be so many spirits hidden in the ancient well. These spirits were only in the initial phase of the qi refining realm, but Jin Shin knew that if hundreds of them gathered, the difficulty of the battle would change entirely. Sweat trickling down her face, Nan Gongyu told Jin Shin that it seemed all the villagers had been turned into malevolent spirits by the demonic cultivator in the house ahead. Jin Shin also looked at the house before them. Nan Gongyu's energy surged in anger, her qi flaring as she immediately charged toward the well, announcing that she would definitely exterminate these demons and uphold justice. Jin Shin charged alongside her and told her that he would support her from behind. Nan Gongyu brought her sword close, placed 2 fingers on the blade, and charged her qi into it, unleashing a powerful sword strike at the malevolent spirits. Jin Shin, gripping his sword with both hands, also dealt a powerful strike at the spirits. As the malevolent spirits scattered under their relentless attacks, Nan Gongyu charged toward the house and shouted at the demonic cultivator hidden inside, condemning him for slaughtering the innocent. She swore to take his life as a tribute to all the villagers who had died so tragically. Jin Shin, watching Nan Gongyu's charging figure, realized that his senior sister was far more reliable than she appeared from her usual behavior. He focused his gaze on Nan Gongyu, watching her in action. Just as she reached the house, its door opened, and a spiritual hand made of green energy shot out to grab her. Jin Shin immediately shouted a warning to Nan Gongyu to be careful. As the hand neared her, she swiftly slashed at it. Jin Shin ran toward her and asked if she was all right. Nan Gongyu silently stared at her sword, which was now covered in demonic energy after just one slash. After a brief pause, she told Jin Shin that she was fine. Suddenly, a burst of energy shot out from the house, accompanied by maniacal laughter. The house crumbled under the surge of power. Nan Gongyu raised her hand to block the dust rising from the debris, and Jin Shin tightened his grip around his sword. As the smoke filled the surroundings, a man holding a flag appeared from within, revealing himself as the demonic cultivator. He mockingly noted that his cultivation had attracted disciples of the Tunnan sword sect. As the dust settled, the man's red eyes glowed, and a red curtain of energy enveloped his body. Holding the demon flag, he threatened them, declaring, "You disciples had a path to heaven, but you chose not to take it. Don't blame me for sending you to hell." Jin Shin's mouth dropped open, and his eyes sharpened as he realized the man was at the initial phase of the Golden Core realm. Nan Gongyu reacted similarly, mumbling, "How is this possible? Could the sect's information be wrong?" Jin Shin replied that it seemed the demonic cultivator had just broken through to the Golden Core realm. Hearing Jin Shin's words, the demonic cultivator's eyes narrowed, and he praised Jin Shin, noting that his cultivation was low, but his eyesight was sharp. The demonic cultivator raised his flag high, and black energy began gushing from it. He confirmed Jin Shin's guess and revealed that he had just broken through to the Golden Core realm. He further claimed that if he could turn both of them into spirits, his power would increase even more. Nan Gongyu immediately gripped her sword tightly, purple energy surging from her body, and she charged toward the demonic cultivator, advising Jin Shin to stay back and avoid getting hurt. Enraged, the demonic cultivator shouted, "You dare challenge my ghost puppets? I will make you one of them." The two clashed, their bodies a blur as dust rose from their strikes. After exchanging dozens of blows, the demonic cultivator, his body covered in black demonic energy, charged again. Nan Gongyu raised her sword to the sky, her energy flaring as it shot upwards. Charging her sword energy, she pointed it at the demonic cultivator and launched herself at him. They exchanged several strikes in the air, their clashing energies the only visible signs of the battle as their figures blurred. Meanwhile, Jin Shin, who had been watching the entire fight from a distance, decided to stay away from the combat zone. As an intermediate phase qi refining cultivator, he knew that if he got too close, he would die and have to restart the game back at the beginner village. The demonic cultivator, now realizing that Nan Gongyu was more troublesome than anticipated, took out a gourd and adopted an offensive stance. After exchanging several strikes with her, he threw the gourd to the ground. The gourd began growing larger, startling Nan Gongyu as she turned to look at it. As it fell beside Jin Shin, she realized the demonic cultivator intended to summon the demon infant. On the ground, as the gourd landed near him, Jin Shin also got startled. Red smoke began gushing out of the gourd, eventually transforming into a huge demonic infant. Its eyes shed blood instead of tears as it roared. A stat window flashed before Jin Shin's eyes, revealing the infant stats. An elite-level evil spirit called Ghost Mother Blood infant with 7,000 HP, 88 attack, 60 defense, and 70 speed. It had 3 skills: Night Owl Long Tongue, Blood Throat, and flying blood bat. Jinshin stared at the blood infant in a daze. The blood infant raised its head towards the sky and shot its tongue toward Nangongyu. Jinshin, realizing the danger, gripped his sword tightly and dealt a powerful strike at the infant's tongue, severing it instantly and dealing a critical hit of 1610. He then turned to Nangongyu, telling her to focus on the demonic cultivator and not worry about him, as he would take care of the blood infant. Enraged after losing its tongue, the blood infant roared that it would eat Jinshin's heart, liver, and entire body. But Jinshin stood firm, gripping his sword, and unleashed a chain of strikes on the infant's body, dealing another critical hit of 1260 HP. With its HP halved, the blood infant transformed into its second stage, demon infant flying mode, splitting into several demonic bats. The blood bats began circling Jinshin. Just then, a virtual screen flashed before him, revealing that the blood infant had used the blood bat sound skill, which disrupted the mind and reduced agility by 30%. Beads of sweat trickled down Jinshin's face as he stared at the screen. Regaining his composure, he gripped his sword with both hands and closed his eyes, focusing to avoid the blood bat's interference. Suddenly, spiritual feathers appeared around Jinshin, hovering in the air. He unleashed the phoenix feather sword manual he had practiced, and beams of energy shot out, striking the blood bats. Jinshin's eyes gleamed with blue energy as he leaped into the air and charged at the blood bats. In seconds, he unleashed dozens of strikes, and as he landed, the blood bats behind him exploded in a chain reaction. Jinshin smiled, realizing how overpowered spirit-grade martial skills were compared to his previous technique, Moon Slash. Meanwhile, Nangongyu finished her battle against the demonic cultivator. Beaten and covered in black energy, the cultivator crashed to the ground, green liquid gushing from his mouth. Clenching his teeth and clutching his chest, he regretfully muttered that he couldn't accept his defeat. Jinshin, watching Nangongyu's body radiating purple energy, smiled. He had misjudged her before, not realizing his delicate and cute senior sister was this powerful. In his last moment, the demonic cultivator took out a wooden box and threw it towards Nangongyu, saying if he had to die, he will not let her live in peace either. Nangongyu, sweat trickling down her face, was already tired after fighting the demonic cultivator. Seeing the wooden box coming towards her, she raised her sword and slashed the wooden box into half. Just then, red smoke started gushing out of the wooden box. The red smoke immediately surrounded Nangongyu, covering the surrounding. Jinshin, watching the whole scene, rushed towards Nangongyu and shouted, asking her to immediately cover her mouth and nose as the smoke contained a demonic insect. But it was already too late. The smoke already entered Nangongyu's body through her mouth. She started panting and sweating heavily and cried out in agony. That is it for today. Subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more.